You plant one shrub, or one vine, or one fast-growing screen for privacy. 3 years from now, it might be in your neighbor's yard, wrapped around your gutters, or growing back through your lawn faster than you can dig it out. This isn't a list of ugly weeds you'd never buy. Every plant on this list is sold at ordinary garden centers right now, with a tag that only tells you half the story. Some of these will surprise you. One is technically native to the US and still makes the list. One gets worse the more you try to cut it down. And the last one has a reputation so bad, some states have laws just for it. 6 plants, all beautiful. All still for sale. Let's start underground. Literally. Stems running bamboo. People plant it for privacy. A few years later, they discover it's giving their neighbor privacy too. Here's why that line isn't an exaggeration. Running bamboo like golden bamboo and black bamboo doesn't spread through obvious roots you can see and pull. It spreads through rhizomes, thick underground stems that travel horizontally and pop up new shoots wherever they feel like it. Year 1, a nice, tidy clump. Year 2, a bigger clump. Year 3, 4, 5, single shoots start appearing several feet away, sometimes on the other side of the fence. University of Connecticut has documented Phylostachys rhizomes, traveling over 100 feet from the original planting site under good conditions. The label says fast privacy screen. It doesn't say the privacy screen may end up in your neighbor's yard. Now, the internet loves to say bamboo breaks through foundations. That's not backed by anything from USDA or university extension research. What it can do is slip into existing cracks, grow under pavement, and pop up next to sidewalks. That's bad enough without the exaggeration. The biggest myth, I'll just mow the shoots down. Mowing kills the shoot. It does nothing to the network underneath, still pushing out new ones. And here's the one thing people always get wrong. Not all bamboo behaves this way. There's a whole separate category, clumping bamboo, like Fargesia, that forms a tight clump and doesn't send out long rhizomes at all. Same tropical look, none of the underground ambush. If you want the bamboo aesthetic without the neighbor lawsuit potential, that's your swap. Now tell me in the comments, has bamboo ever shown up somewhere you didn't plant it? 2. English ivy. It starts as a romantic green wall. Then it finds the siding, the gutters, the roof line, and every weak spot you forgot your house had. And I need to be specific here. I'm not talking about poison ivy, Boston ivy, or Virginia creeper. This is English ivy, Hedera helix, the classic old cottage evergreen ground cover. For the first several years, English ivy stays in what's called its juvenile phase, creeping, rooting wherever it touches soil, climbing anything nearby. Harmless looking, but once it climbs high enough and gets enough light, often around the 10-year mark, it shifts into its mature phase. The leaf shape changes. It starts flowering. It starts fruiting. And birds start carrying those seeds well beyond your yard. So the wall was never the end point. The wall was just phase 1. Here's the myth to kill immediately. English ivy does not drill through solid brick like some kind of green jackhammer. University of Maryland is clear that the real risk is to already damaged or vulnerable surfaces. Wood siding, cracked mortar, loose flashing. It's most dangerous to weak spots, not because it behaves like a drill, but because it finds and exploits weakness that was already there. Where it's genuinely documented as dangerous is trees. Ivy doesn't feed on a tree like a parasite. It damages it indirectly, shading out the canopy, trapping moisture against bark, and most importantly, adding enormous weight to branches that then come down in wind, snow, or ice. Control isn't a one-weekend job either. Left behind root fragments can reroot. Mature ivy needs the base cut, a section removed in a ring around the trunk, and the upper growth left to die in place, never ripped down all at once. If you want the look without the risk, native options like coral honeysuckle give you a climbing green wall, just trained on their own trellis, kept off the siding entirely. Staghorn Sumac. This is the native one I mentioned at the top. Here's an important correction before we even start. Staghorn sumac is a native plant in the United States. This is not a foreign invader. But that almost makes it a better story, not a worse one. Plant one sumac near the property line, and a few years later, your neighbor may be mowing down its children. Rustifina spreads 2 ways: seeds and, much more aggressively, root suckers. North Carolina State Extension describes it plainly. It forms thickets through self-seeding and suckering, and it can turn weedy fast. Year 1, one gorgeous small tree with that almost tropical fall color. Year 2 to 3, a few new shoots nearby. Year 3 to 5, Suckers start showing up in the lawn, between your perennials, along the fence, on ground you never intended to plant a second tree on. The nursery sells you one beautiful native tree. The root system may have plans for an entire grove, and this isn't small potatoes. A mature colony can block up to 90% of the light reaching whatever's growing underneath it. In a naturalistic border or a big sloped property, that's a feature. In a tidy 20-foot suburban bed, that's a takeover. Cutting it down doesn't end it. The root system is still alive, and if it still has energy and light, it just sends up more suckers. The honest verdict: Staghorn Sumac isn't a garden villain. It's a beautiful native plant that was never designed to stay a single polite little tree. Because in nature, it's built to form a colony. If you've got a big dry bank that needs exactly that, this might be the perfect plant. If you've got a small manicured yard, it's the wrong plant in the wrong place. Chinese Wisteria. This might be the most beautiful plant on the entire list. That's exactly why people forgive it for so long. Chinese Wisteria can turn a pergola into a postcard and then become heavier than the structure holding it up. This isn't a delicate flowering vine. It's a woody, heavy, powerful climber. In its first couple years, it might barely bloom, so people plant it right next to the house, a small tree, or a decorative arbor thinking it's harmless. Then it roots in, and the growth rate takes off. The stems thicken every year. They wrap around whatever they're climbing. They find gaps, and as they expand, they widen those gaps, which is exactly how gutters get bent, shutters get damaged, and awnings get torn. The pergola doesn't fail because the flowers are heavy. It fails because decades of woody vines slowly become part of the structure itself, and it does not climb a tree politely. It wraps around the trunk, reaches the canopy, and, as University of Maryland puts it, can kill mature trees by shading out their leaves and mechanically constricting the trunk as both plant and tree keep growing. Myth check: it doesn't drill through healthy foundations, and it isn't actively strangling like a python. It grows into existing gaps and vulnerable spots, and the damage builds as the stems thicken over years, not days. One more thing most people don't know: the seed pods are toxic if eaten. Not touch and die dangerous, but a real risk for kids and pets who might mistake them for decorative beans. You plant it for the flowers, it stays for the infrastructure. 5. Tree of Heaven. Remember the plant I said gets worse the more you try to cut it down? This is it. Cut down one tree of heaven without dealing with the roots first, and the tree may answer by sending up dozens of new shoots. Ailanthus altissima might be the single most complete, takes-over-everything machine on this list. It grows fast, tolerates awful soil and pollution, and reacts to being cut down by aggressively suckering, meaning the standard fix makes the problem worse, not better. One seedling can look harmless. It even gets mistaken for native sumac or black walnut. But underground, it's building a wide network of lateral roots capable of sending up new trunks feet away from the original tree. What looks like 10 small trees in your yard may actually be one connected organism. And it doesn't stop there. A single mature female tree can release more than 300,000 seeds in 1 year. So it spreads 2 ways at once: locally through roots and regionally through windblown seed. It also produces chemical compounds that can suppress the germination and growth of nearby plants. Not it poisons everything within 20 feet, but a real, documented competitive edge against everything trying to grow near it. And the final twist: Tree of Heaven is the preferred host of the spotted lanternfly, one of the most damaging invasive insects currently spreading through the U.S. Removing it doesn't eliminate the insect on its own, but it takes away one of its favorite places to live. Control isn't a chainsaw job. Extension services recommend treating the trunk in a way that lets herbicide move down into the root system before the tree comes down. Cutting first is what triggers the shoot explosion. With most trees, cutting is control. With Tree of Heaven, cutting can be a command to multiply. Japanese knotweed, and here's the one, with actual laws written for it. Some of this plant's reputation is exaggerated. It doesn't magically drill through perfect concrete. But the real plant is still bad enough. Japanese knotweed spreads mainly through underground rhizomes. And here's the number that should scare you more than any concrete myth: a rhizome fragment as small as about 1 centimeter can grow into an entirely new colony. Those rhizomes can resprout from roughly 3 feet deep, and stem cuttings can root in nothing more than damp soil or standing water. The stems disappear every winter. The problem does not. You look at a patch of knotweed and see individual plants. Underground, you may be looking at one connected system, and moving soil, using shared tools, or digging carelessly can spread fragments to entirely new parts of your property. Or someone else's. Digging is not automatically removal. Done badly, it becomes propagation. Control here isn't a weekend project. University of Maryland describes systemic herbicide, applied after flowering through the first frost when the plant is actively pulling resources down into its roots, as the most effective approach, and even then, full elimination can take 3 to 5 years. Cut stems can't go in the compost. They need to be fully dried and disposed of according to local rules, because live fragments can start new infestations somewhere else entirely. It's classified as a noxious weed in Pennsylvania. Its sale is banned in Maine, but there's no single nationwide ban. Laws vary by state. Japanese knotweed is not terrifying because it's stronger than concrete. It's terrifying because it can survive your shovel, your mower, and the soil you move trying to get rid of it. 6 plants. 6 different ways a perfect nursery tag can leave out the part that actually matters 3 years later. None of them are evil. Every single one is still useful. In the right yard, in the right spot, for the right reason. Beautiful isn't the same as safe. Not one of these plants proves otherwise. Tell me in the comments, which one of these 7 is already growing somewhere in your yard right now? Your answers decide what I dig into next. See you in the next one.